Jamie Kinkeade in the house. How are you today, Jamie?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty darn good. For folks who don't know who you are or are familiar with the studio, do you mind explaining what it all is?
Sure. We are basically a fitness. It's hard to put a label on it now because I used to say fitness studio, but
Mhm.
we are more of a fitness brand, I guess,
Yeah.
that has an online subscription, a live studio, as well as a YouTube channel. And we have all different kinds of classes, but what makes us different is that each of our class styles and formats, their original formats, and they all have a different purpose. So, not physically, but like mentally and emotionally, to fill a different space in your life that might be missing. Whether that's like, you want to feel strong, you want to learn how to believe in yourself, you want to learn how to, love your femininity, or just kind of dance and have fun and let go of all, basically the cares of the world, and just kind of enjoy yourself. So our entire brand, our purpose, our mission, it's all wrapped around in making women feel better, not look better.
I love that. I'm curious, when you started the studio, did you start with that intention of like, let's elicit emotion, or is that something that evolved over time?
Well, it was a natural thing to begin with, but I
Mm,
didn't even start the studio really. It just kind of evolved into itself. I
got
started as a Zumba instructor, so it wasn't my own brand or anything. I just kind of noticed whenever you felt the energy in the room shift, and it was always whenever there was some sort of emotion elicited, whether that was, we'd have girls that would cry, or the laughter, or the crescendo of the song. So even our music is really methodical, as to get that sort of emotional response, because that's what people want.
And I totally want to say that your jam classes, which are like dancing classes, there's a little bit of a different flavor than with Zumba. Like
For
it's
sure.
and it's so it's I can tell that you guys have such a great culture there because everybody's going all out and it's
Yes,
just so fun. I've been in Zumba classes before, like when I was going to the YMCA and stuff, where like
sure.
people are a little bit reserved and it just kind of feels awkward, but not at the studio. And granted, I've just been I came across you on YouTube, but it I can feel it through the screen.
Well, whenever I train my instructors, I always ask them, the most important thing is, what do you want your clients to feel after
Mm.
they get done with your class? And then that gives you your purpose. And so they feel that, like, and I've asked them before, almost all of my instructors were clients first,
Wow.
because I want them to have that story and know the importance of our mission, and is more than just fitness. And so they have felt that before. And some of them will say, well, I want them to feel powerful. So, okay, well, then how are you going to make that happen? I want them to feel, encouraged. How are you going to make that happen? I want them to feel beautiful. I want them to feel free. And that's our groundwork. And then we build the class from there. But because they know that, like, as a leader, or I guess as I don't know, I don't like the word leader necessarily, because I like to create all of my instructors to be their own leaders as well.
Mm.
But I really drive that home with my instructors. And it is a lot of pressure to work at the studio, because you have to really feel it more than just physically, and then figure out a way to get that point across to whoever it is. And when we created the studio online, started making YouTube videos, I talked to Cami. I'm sure you know Cami is in a lot of the videos. And I said, my main goal is to bring what we have in the studio into someone's home who is by themselves, because they need it so much. They're alone. And so we have to do whatever it takes to really get everything that we can get from our brick and mortar into their home. And so Cammie, when she started filming, she would talk directly to the camera and she would get closer up, and our videographer would say, "You're not in focus when you do that." And I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I love that she's doing that. Let her make that connection.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and I taught certain fitness classes in the past, so I totally, it resonates with me when you're saying that your instructors really have to show up. It's not just going through the motions. You really have to show up and feel it. That is really cool. And I also love that everything that you do is very purpose driven and not even just for how to make the most money, like, and I love that you even share that story on your YouTube videos. Do you mind sharing that a little bit?
Sure. It's funny you mentioned that because we just kind of talked about it yesterday. Our YouTube videos, because the music is such a huge part of what we do, we use music we always get copyright claims for pretty much every single song. And so we cannot monetize our videos at all. So we've really tried to put our heads together to figure out a way to create some income from that following. So it's really difficult, but we also, you know, we don't get as many views as some of the other fitness instructors because the titles of the YouTube videos that are getting the hits are, workout to lose weight, or dance workout for skinnier legs, or, get rid of your bat wings, arm workout, stuff like this. Or a lot of them are burn, 300 calories in 30 minutes or something like that. And those are the highest hitting keywords. And, we don't use those keywords on our YouTube videos. So it's a little more difficult to get them out to people, research the algorithm and do as much as we can there. But we really depend on, we call them our addicts. That's our culture kind of term of endearment. We really depend on them to share with their friends and, word of mouth and talk about it. And I think that's how we get most of our views. But it is difficult because, a video, like we have one that has over 6 million views, that kind of video would typically maybe draw in, from what I've researched, $50,000. And, we get
Wow.
zero, nothing.
Wow.
So we created a Patreon account, and I have to push that a little bit more because going forward, we're kind of running out of older videos pre-COVID that we can post because
Mm.
the income from the brick and mortar has, taken a hit. So we're really depending on other sources of income, and, just keeping our fingers crossed. If I push that a little bit more, then we'll be able to keep making new videos and posting them.
I A couple things that you said that I really appreciate and love is that you are not trying to profit off of other people's insecurities,
Oh, hell
which
no.
which it, no, let it fly if you want it.
Okay.
Um, um, and it other I've thought about this a ton about the fitness industry. It all is right now. The culture is to profit off of others' insecurities, which is why skinnier legs, fix your bat wings, whatever.
I am like sick to my stomach because I know what's coming. It's going to be lose your COVID weight, because once everything kind of gets lifted and people are trying their best, and they have to, in the fitness industry is taking a huge hit from this to, lure people back to the gym. I mean, I'm just waiting for it. I know it's going to be awful, and it works. That's the sad thing, is that it works. People will see that. And I mean, I used to be a victim of that. I used to have, a huge battle with, bulimia for years and years and years. I would be the first person to click on those things. And that's exactly why I don't do it now. But it's really difficult to see that because it just breaks my heart. And I know a lot, like there are YouTubers that do that, that I have talked to over like Instagram messaging and stuff. They're wonderful people. it's not, I don't even think that they understand. It's just a marketing strategy, you know?
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of self-control. You have to put, put the monetary side of it aside and just go, all right, God, I'm doing this because it's what I feel is right. And I'm counting on you. And I have faith in whatever happens and go from there.
How how do you stay grounded through creative insecurity and being like, "Oh, should I change this? Oh, maybe this could be better." Like, I imagine it's I'm just thinking through my brain just how much I could it's hard for me to stay grounded in like purpose. How do you do that? Is faith the main driver for you?
Well, I mean, faith is a big, to me, faith is so much bigger than a religion. Faith
Mm,
is, your intuition, it's your integrity, it's, checking in with yourself and believing in yourself and believing in your purpose.
mhm,
But anytime I start to kind of, stray away or get frustrated, that we have, you know, almost 200,000 YouTube subscribers and, we're making no money off of that. Like it is easy to get frustrated, when you need the money to keep doing what you're doing. I always say, Jamie, check yourself because it will come. Just be patient and remember why you're doing this. I have a really strong why. And so, I mean, I just think that when you have that, your willpower to stick on the path is a lot stronger. My why is not, it doesn't waver, but it is very difficult.
I honestly can only imagine, and not only are you leading in how you're going about fitness, but even your classes are just so some of your classes are so daring. So we chatted about jam, but hot seat,
Yeah.
very daring
Yeah.
class. Do you mind
That's
sharing?
actually one that we have released a couple of single videos on YouTube for. And if you like, I can see the stats and it's like, you lost 40 subscribers from this video
Wow.
because, a lot of our subscribers might be in our area. We're in the Bible Belt. We're, located in Missouri. They don't understand the purpose behind it. They
Mm,
can't connect with it. And they just see it as, you know, trying to be like sexy or slutty or whatever. I don't know. We are trying to be sexy, but because we are sexy, that's what I think, like
right.
we're not trying to be, we're owning our femininity and our body. And but yeah, hot seat was one that was like definitely came from like deep down inside of me, hearing women talk about how disconnected they were from their bodies after having babies, and their marriages were suffering because they couldn't have that intimacy because they were so insecure about their bodies. And I mean, and you don't have to have babies and you don't have to have, be a certain age to relate to any of that. And
No.
so that's where the hot seat was kind of created. It was like, everyone kept saying you should get pole dancing. And I had this vision of a workout that included one single dance, and that dance was going to empower the women in that class. And it's become one of our most popular classes. It's really a really neat experience during that hour.
I I completely agree that it's not just moms that struggle with it. I've grown up with the belief that dancing in a sexy way is not safe,
Yes.
because if I were to do that out at a bar, like, not safe for me, like, that could be a threat to me. So it's a lot of unlearning, and it's really unfortunate because, like, in the studio, even taking a class, I may feel that hesitation to go for it because I still feel that pull of it's not safe.
Yes. And so we really work through it's so neat. In every single class, you see, I know when I start class, I have the purpose, right? And so you go in and you go, okay, she's new and she's new. And so you kind of keep your eye on them. And, as the class goes on, you watch this shift because they look around and they see, wow, she is really going after it. And she's doing something totally different back there, but Jamie doesn't care at all. As a
Mhm.
matter of fact, Jamie just said, girl, you're looking so good back there. Keep that up. And they start to loosen up. And like
Mhm.
I always say, the studio is not for everyone, just like nothing is for everyone. So they'll either have a feeling of, I have to do this again, because that I've had someone tell me before, I saw her come out just for a second and it felt really, really good. Like that woman inside of her.
Wow.
And so that's why we do what we do, because those people come to us and they say, holy cow, I forgot what that felt like. It's incredible. And so I don't know, it's just, you're right though, women do feel like it's not safe. And even at the studio, the reason that they feel like it's not safe is because they've learned that other women will criticize them or compete against them.
Mm.
So that is our job as leaders. Like, we shut that down so quick, so quick.
I love that, and I I'm not sure if this is top of mind for you, but it's top of mind for me that you posted on your Instagram account, you doing a hot seat routine, and you just laid out every criticism that people could possibly think about you.
Yeah.
Like, I found that to be so powerful. You were like, you mentioned things like, doesn't she have kids? Isn't she married? She shouldn't
Mhm.
be doing that. Or like she's posting that on Instagram. Like you
What if
just
her
listen.
daughter sees? That was the number one for me. What if my
Oh,
daughter sees this? What is she going to think? Is she going to think, oh my gosh, mom, you're so embarrassing? But, then I have to model that behavior for her to be unapologetically, who you are when you have a message.
so I kind of want to dig into criticism a little bit more.
Okay.
Um, you, from a studio standpoint, you guys handle criticism really well, by responding to every comment on YouTube videos, by addressing criticisms that people may be thinking. Do you mind sharing that approach?
Well, I think it's like, let me address the elephant in the room before you
Mhm.
have a chance to succumb to what society wants you to say and do. What you've
Mhm.
been taught, is those thoughts of that's wrong, or that girl in the back of the video, she doesn't know what she's doing. She can't dance. And
Mhm.
so if you address it before it's said and put the thought into someone's mind, then they start thinking, that really is not okay. That is my instinctive thought. you know it's it's a human instinct to criticize anything that makes you feel uncomfortable with yourself. And so they think, if I put this out there that that's wrong, then I'm not going to feel so maybe jealous or empty because I don't have the same courage to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so when you bring it up before they do, like in our last jam video that we posted on YouTube, there was a pause and I said, I'm going to take a minute. And we have some comments sometimes about some of the girls in the back not knowing all the routines and how I mess up, because we have had comments like that, you should have re-recorded that, you messed up 3 times or whatever. I can't follow you if you mess up. And I said, we do this on purpose. I have people in our videos that have literally never once done these routines before, not once,
Wow.
because I want there to be a more personal connection with the person across the screen than them to say, oh man, she just messed up. That makes me feel so much better. Oh my gosh, even Jamie messed up. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, and that we're all in this together. And
Yes.
for folks that don't like seeing imperfections, oh lordy. They got some
It's, yeah,
stuff. They've got some stuff to unpack.
for sure. And that's why I think that, I see that. And my instinct now, because I've dealt with so much of it, is when someone is very critical, in a hateful way, I see the pain. Like, I just know they don't mean that. They just
Mm.
they're feeling empty in themselves. And it is true. What our moms told us when we were little, it's true. They only say those things about you because they're feeling bad about themselves. I remember
Mhm.
telling my mom, that's not true, mom.
Yeah,
She's just mean or whatever, And now I see it's not, I like to say, look at someone and ask, are they being wicked or are they just weak in that moment? And then it's so much easier to like forgive those harsh words and just send them a little bit of positivity because they need it more than anyone.
completely. And perfectionism is a big is a big part of the world that be. Like I'm unraveling that stuff, have been for several years, but when you're really hard on yourself, you're really hard on others and vice versa. When you're really hard on others, you're really hard on yourself.
Absolutely. I am a recovering bulimic and a recovering perfectionist. And I think the two can sometimes go hand in hand.
Yes.
You punish yourself in ways because you're not perfect,
Mhm.
that are harmful, and that because you don't think you deserve better. So you have to
Right.
go on that journey. And part of that journey 100% is forgiving yourself for all the things. But if you if you don't forgive yourself, how can you expect anyone else to? That's kind of the thing with that and the perfectionism. And so I really try so hard to convey that message. And I think jam is a great way to do it. We address a lot of uncomfortable issues in ignition, and it's really, really amazing to see. I've had clients who have left abusive relationships after,
Wow.
taking classes with me for a while, and I don't take any credit for that. They always say, you changed my life. And I say, absolutely not. You
Mm,
changed your life. I can't do
mm.
that. Only you can do that. I can be a tool. You walk through the door, you choose what you leave the room with. I just
True.
present to you because 5 people in this room might have eating disorders or be in a harmful relationship or be beating themselves up 24/7. But one of you is going to apply it in your life.
Mhm.
Awareness of what needs to change without willingness to do the work. It's pointless. It's worthless. So
Hmm. That's completely true. One thing that I really took away from one of your videos, and I use it as a mantra for myself, is connection, not perfection.
so that's a funny story how that came to be.
Cool.
This to me is like divine intervention 100%. And I don't like taking credit for that connection, not perfection, because I actually heard it on the TV right before I went downstairs to film.
Mm,
um, I wanted to do a workout from my house so that I could connect a little bit more with other people working out at their houses.
mm,
And so I had my videographer come over here, and I was so nervous. I was kind of sick to my stomach. I wanted it to be a dance, but really super uplifting. But I also wanted it to have like an ignition type of message that everything's going to be okay, like
mhm,
smile on the down days. And it was really in the thick of all the lockdowns. And he came and he filmed, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I knew instantly. I'm like, I bombed that. It didn't feel right. I didn't feel it. Like I tell my instructors, you have to
mm,
feel it. I didn't feel it. He
mm.
left, and I just started crying. And I told my
Ah,
husband, I'm like, each video production from start to finish costs about $350 each workout. And I'm like, we didn't have, our finances were so unsure at that
strapped.
time. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't do this, Jeremy. I cannot post this. And he was like, babe, you know better than anyone what you need to do. He's like, I'm behind you 100%, whatever you need to do. So I messaged Austin and I said, I hate that. I said, I don't even know if I want you to send it to me. I just know it didn't feel right. And he said,
Mm.
okay. I said, how much money have I spent with you so far? And how can we do this again and keep it within a certain range? And so he had this idea. He's like, what if we did outside and, sunshine and all that stuff? So that was the second time he came over. So I'd already failed once, being the perfectionist that I was. I'm making no money from these videos, but I was like, this is not the message that I want to send. So I was like in a full blown panic that morning, and my husband knew it. And I'm like, what if it's bad again? And he's like, you're putting so much pressure on yourself, Jamie. He's like, you have so many gifts to share and you are putting so much pressure on yourself to be perfect. He's like, you can't do that. And then I was just like sitting at the table in the kitchen, taking deep breaths. Austin was getting his stuff set up downstairs. And my husband was in the living room watching the news or something. And it was about live streaming. And they said, right now people want connection. They don't need a perfect sound. They don't need a perfect picture. They're just feeling lonely and they just want to feel connected. And
Mm.
so I thought that's the message. That's it right there. And everything just kind of like snapped for that one. And I don't know, it just came out and it meant so much more even as the dance. So I literally heard that phrase about 5 minutes before I started filming.
Wow.
And I was just thinking, connection, not perfection, so many ways. Like connect to your body. Don't expect it to be perfect. Connect to the music. Don't expect your dance moves to be perfect. Connect with them and don't worry about me being perfect and saying the exact right
Right.
thing. So, I mean, that to me is huge. I remind myself that all the time, all the time. Connection, not perfection.
And it's impacted me too, and I'm sure thousands of other people, because when you demonstrate and you lead by example by giving yourself grace, it makes me feel like, oh, I can too. We can all kind of lift each other up in that way
Yeah.
by leading by example.
And I tell the girls at the studio with our brick and mortar, I mean, they are my family. Some of them have been my clients since I was teaching Zumba in the elementary school gym and have followed me all these years,
Wow.
from paying $1 a class. Now they pay, a monthly membership that's not a dollar. And I tell the girls, if you dance freely, the girl next to you that's new, you're giving her a permission slip to do the same. But if you
Right.
are insecure and you're tense and you're rolling your eyes or looking at your watch, I always say, don't be a domino. Don't be a domino,
Mm.
be a bulldozer.
Wow.
Like you bulldoze and you lift it up, from the bottom instead of, knocking it over, because negative energy, man, I see it in the class all the time. If we have a really tough ignition class, one person starts to give up, it's just a domino effect.
Completely. Completely. I do want to talk about ignition, but I would love to chat a little bit about how you are a phenomenal dancer, like fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
you have never taken a formal dance class.
Now, I can't say that now because my birthday last year, one of my very good friends hired a dance instructor to come and do an hour private class with me and her and one of my
Oh,
other friends. It
fun.
was so fun because she knows I never had done that before. And so technically I've taken one last October, but before that, no, I hadn't.
How did you come in contact with dance and how did you learn how to dance?
Um, I think that, it was just, I really, really, truly do believe that, I mean, this probably sounds crazy to some people, but I think when I was born, God said, this is your journey and you're not going to understand it at some points in your life. You're going to really struggle. Um, but I'm going to give you a gift and I'm going to give you a path to use your gift and your struggle simultaneously to help others find happiness and more fulfillment and meaning in life. And I know it sounds crazy when you're talking about fitness, but that's why it's more than fitness. But
Mhm.
I mean, when I was young, I would love to dance so much. And I remember we had, my mom had some friends over and we were dancing. And my mom is actually a really like a rhythmical dancer, not like she doesn't have any dance lessons or anything either, but she loves to dance. And she taught me how to two-step. And then we had country line dance workout tapes, and I would do that over and over. And aerobics. There was an aerobics VHS I probably did 3 times a day, every day for an entire summer. I could memorize it. Kathy Smith, like, I mean, it's it's just something I've always really wanted to do. And then when I got into high school, I tried out for the dance team, and I honestly didn't think that I would make it.
Mm.
You struggle with that. Like, all of these girls are dancers.
Yeah.
And I made the dance team, and my coach actually let me choreograph our senior piece when I was a junior, and I was on a
Oh,
dance team with a bunch of trained dancers.
wow.
And she told me, she said, I think your gift is that you didn't ever get to take lessons. She said, because you can transform your movement. A ballerina has a hard time with hip hop. A
Mm.
jazz dancer has a hard time with ballet. She said, I see you in all these different formats, and you just kind of mold and shape to it. So that was huge confidence booster for me when she
Wow.
let me choreograph that. And, it was not a responsibility that I would take lightly.
Mhm.
And another thing that's funny and probably worth sharing is that when
Yeah.
I was probably 15, maybe 14, I told my mom to take my bed out of my room because my room was really small
Oh my
and
God.
I had no room to dance. And she was like, Absolutely not. You have to have a bed to sleep in." I said, "Mom, I will sleep on the couch." And she's like, "Jamie, come on." And I'm like, "Please, please, please." So I didn't have a bed in my bedroom. I had a dance studio. And
Oh
then I
my
slept on the
God.
couch for years. I mean, that was what I did.
Wow. That is so cool. That is
I would watch VHS recorded videos of all of Michael Jackson's music videos, and I
mm,
would rewind, play over and over and over until I could do the move that he was doing somewhat. I mean, that's Michael
yeah.
Jackson. You can't do it how he does it.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
Wow. I had so many dance parties in my room by myself growing up, like so many. And I've dancing is one of the main places that brings me the most joy. Like if
absolutely.
I'm in a bad mood, dancing will just snap me out of it for sure.
100%. And that is why, like a class like Ignition, you have to say the thing.
Mm,
In Jam, you have to like express the thing, the happiness,
mm,
the joy. It has to be expressed. And, I want people say all the time, dance like no one's watching. And I say, screw that. Dance like everyone's watching, but you don't care because you're having so much fun and you
interesting.
don't care what anyone thinks because this is your experience with yourself and the music. And you are allowed to get lost without worrying about if everyone on the planet can see you.
It's so interesting. What I so many folks have inhibitions around dancing, which seems strange. It's like, philosophically seems like a little strange. Like dancing is where everyone gets hung up, which is why the phrase dance like no one's watching exists. Do you have any idea why dancing?
So it's so funny that you bring that up because we just filmed an Ignition class that has tons of dancing in it because people will avoid the dance classes.
Okay.
And so then I'm like, "Oh, you came to Ignition, but you're in for a treat." And the like theme of the Ignition class is collective joy. And collective joy, it's a well, it's actually not a Brene Brown thing. She does talk about it, but it was a different Aaron Ecclestein or something like that.
Mhm.
But she talks about the history of collective joy, and it was always done through music and dancing. And so what
Mm.
happened through time is that leaders would see that as very threatening because they could feel the power in it. So they would shut it down. And
Uh-huh.
so that is why, and mostly men would see women dancing and they would see that they didn't want the women, gathering together and have all these ideas and feeling good
Mm.
about each other and like
Mm.
complimenting each other and empowering each other. So they would say that's inappropriate and they would shut it down. And over time, our collective joy experiences have been greatly limited as far as dancing and music go.
Interesting. So that's a lot of generational passing it down of
Oh,
feeling
it's
uncomfortable.
so much time, of saying you can't dance like that. And so, you know, technical dancing, like this is the right way to dance, began when they said, you can't dance because you're getting too happy. And
Mhm.
that sort of joy is only reserved for higher class people. So we're
Interesting.
going to make you sit and watch. And then they trained their higher class to be the entertainment, but they were not allowed to participate because they felt that that sort of joy and that power was reserved for higher class people. And so then they
Interesting.
said, this is the correct way to dance. And the only way that you're going to be able to look even close to good at all is if you have enough money for the formal training. And we know that you don't.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I don't know this for sure, and I'm going to have to look it up to corroborate, but I believe that's how Irish step dancing started because they weren't allowed to dance. And so they just kept their arms straight, like, see, we're not dancing. It's just our feet. You know, what you
That
gonna do?
doesn't surprise me at all. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always a way.
And they say that it's an innate desire, yearning, like need for human beings to dance, to move their body in a rhythm, and to participate in these things that bring them joy, that you don't recognize it as people like, I guess, rebelling against this, but it is. So like you're talking about the Irish dancing, that's a
Mhm.
rebellion against being told not to dance.
Mm.
The wave at sporting events, that's a
Yeah.
way to unite together because a spectator
Yes.
sport is, sit and watch.
Yeah.
The music and the games, and people get up and they dance, and that's their way of being participants in the experience instead of just sitting and watching.
Music and dancing are, I completely agree that it's so integral. Like if you walk into a store and there's no music playing, you don't even know why, but it feels awkward.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it completely sets the tone and the vibe for the store. Like companies spend so much time figuring out like what's the right vibe. And also, like if you're listening to a song that you love, try not to move. Just try.
Oh,
Like you
right,
can't.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
just it's just in our bodies.
Well, you can see it with babies, and even,
Oh yeah.
women when they're pregnant, music plays and the baby starts to move, even in
Wow.
utero. I mean,
Wow.
it's something. I think it's something God gave us to help us get through, you know,
Hard
our
times.
whatever we're going through.
Yeah, and it is like, you can like shake off stuff. You've brought up ignition a couple of times, and it's a little bit different than your jam classes. So you have dancing classes, and but you also have ignition, which is more of a motivational class. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that and how it started? I think that's a really cool story.
Sure. So I read a lot of self-help books, and I read one in particular that I was just like kind of blown away by. It was like a step by step, manual on how to be a badass. It's You Are a Badass, that
Okay.
book. And I'm like, man, I got to share this. I got to figure out a way to share this. And I actually opened the app store one day, and I never ever download apps or anything. I don't even know why I opened it. I think I was checking on a purchase that my son made or something. And there was an app called Motivate, and I opened it and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And every day they would post 3 YouTube videos, that were motivational YouTube videos. And I started watching them, and I noticed like this desire to like spread what I was hearing, just to repeat it to the girls. And I kept thinking about, oh, this girl needs to hear this or that. And so we have another class called Lifted, and I tried to kind of like insert it into that class.
Mhm.
And one of my really good friends, at the time, she came to me and she said, Jamie, Lifted is, I love what you're doing and I appreciate it. She said, I just feel like it needs to be separate. She's like, I come to Lifted for a different reason, a different purpose, and it's kind of shifting. And I really love
Mm.
it the way it was before. And she said, I just think it needs to be its own thing. And there's the criticism piece that I was
Mhm.
like, okay, because I was feeling really good about it. Like, man, this is so cool. And a lot of the people had given me positive feedback. But then oh, lady,
Don't worry.
sorry.
Oh my God.
Let me let her out real quick.
Life happens. Do it.
Okay, sorry.
No, don't
Um,
be sorry. Life happens. Life happens.
so um anyway, I started like really thinking about that and what it would look like if I did. And, ignition, the point of ignition is that you have to get yourself in a place where you're really physically struggling to um, get the instinctive thoughts to come forth of how much do you really believe in yourself.
Wow.
And then my job as a facilitator is to create awareness of that. So it's a lot of like, okay, I know you're starting to struggle. Like, well, how does that make you feel? What's the thought that you're thinking when you start to struggle immediately? Because no
Mm.
matter what in life, the second we start to struggle and gets really, really hard, the instinct for every human is to have self-doubt
Wow.
always.
True.
I mean,
Completely.
and you have to, the thing is, too many of us give into the self-doubt and don't put ourselves out there. And because it's scary, so
Mm.
we're like retraining to say, okay, I hear that thought. I hear that. I recognize it, but I'm going to choose not to believe that thought. And I'm going to look a little bit deeper. And I'm going to ask,
Mm.
what is it that I want? I want the strength to, to quit my job or to
Mm.
leave this relationship or to say I love you to the
Mm.
person that I'm not sure, if they're going to say I love you back. It's all about learning to put yourself out there and be vulnerable, but you got to recognize the voice in your head and shut it down and kind of, I say, flip the switch.
Right. And learning a new pattern because we're all going to have self doubt at some point in
Always.
time. And through ignition, you can learn a new pattern, like when it comes up. And I think it's really important to have tangible examples of when things have had gotten tough. You've doubted yourself and you've overcome it, because then in life, when a certain thing happens, you're like, oh, I can do this though, because I've done it here, I've done it there, I've done it there. And then through that, you just build a lot of self confidence.
I always tell the girls in ignition, I said, all you're doing is building a case for your strength. You're just
Mm,
you're building your case, you're piling your evidence up. Like, I am strong, I am capable, I can do this. I've done it before, like you said. And
mm,
yesterday, one of the girls after ignition, she said to me, and she's been gone for a while. She hasn't, she's stayed home and now she's feeling a little safer and came back for the first time yesterday. I was so excited to see her. And she said, I was so scared to come in because I didn't want that feeling again that I had when I very first started coming to ignition, that it was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And she said, and today you kept saying, remember the time that you did it before. And then
ah,
she said, I would fail and I would go, dang it, the song was over. All I had to do was stay with it for 10 more seconds. And
mhm,
then she said, and that was really important for me to remember too. You have to remember what it feels like to get past that, but you
mm,
also need to remember what it feels like to give in and know, I don't like that feeling. Like, it was
mm.
10 more seconds. I know for a fact I could have given 10 more seconds. So why didn't I? Just because I didn't know how much longer I had to go.
That completely resonates. That completely resonates. Giving up, I hate that. Particularly with planks, because it's planks are so hard because you're doing so much, but also
Everything.
nothing at the same time. And then
So
you just
every
have to sit
ignition
there.
class, we have a plank song. We have done 5-minute planks. We've done 7-minute planks. I've seen women like hold planks longer than most men can. It's
Wow.
it's amazing. And usually during that, I will play like a motivational audio or some like a symphony type orchestra with a lot of crescendos. And I used to be able to, and I will again, when we can, walk around and I'd like get into a plank right next to him whenever I'd see him start to like shake and, really
Yeah.
help him through that. Because at the end, I mean, I've had girls, the song is over, they collapse and they are in tears and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I didn't know I could do that. And then I say, where else in your life are you selling yourself short?
Whoa. Whoa. I kind of want to let that just sit in. Where else in life are you selling yourself short? Oh my God.
I mean, that's why people love ignition or they are so scared to walk in the door. And I think it's because they don't know what's going to come up. You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable to walk into an ignition class for sure.
Yeah. And it might get a little bit worse before it gets better.
Yes.
Because we do such a good job of like pushing things down. And as you said, when you put yourself through a hard thing, that's when the little gremlins come out.
Yep. And like we
Mm.
do, a lot of our ignition classes are themed. We've done one on different emotions. We did one for anger, which was really cool. And that's why I'm saying, mentioning that because of what you said. But
Yeah.
it's like, you know, we shove things down further and further, hoping that we're going to get rid of it by that. And I'm like, do you
Mm.
realize how backwards that is? Like, you're never going to get rid of it if you keep shoving it down. So we have
Mm.
to let it come out. So in this rage, we called it rage. And we like had different pieces of equipment that we were like pounding on the floor. And I was like making the girls scream as loud as they could, even though some of them were like, this is weird. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we're going to do it over and over. And I want you to yell at the top of your lungs. And then they were just like, oh my gosh. I'm
Yeah.
like, see what I'm saying? Like, you got to get it out. The
Yeah.
thing that you need to say or do, it's not going anywhere until you say or do it or deal with it.
Mhm. Completely. I I love it. And it's so powerful to also be in the room with people.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to talk about that, like about community. And
Mhm.
when we chatted on the phone prior to the episode, you were mentioning how group fitness is not dead.
Not at all, not even close. My husband and I were talking about that last night. Every commercial you see now, if you see a commercial on Hulu, is what we were watching, you have those commercials. Every single commercial break is like the mirror by Lululemon, or
Mm-hmm.
this other thing with the things, or Peloton, and
Yeah.
they're pushing home workouts so much. And you know at first I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not going to be good for us.
Mm-hmm.
um and then all it took was, not being able to hold live classes for 6 weeks and coming back into it and feeling that feeling. And I'm like, there is no way people are going to walk away from this. The community, the friendship, most of us at the studio, those are our only friends,
Yeah.
because as adults, when do you really get to spend an hour with your friends every single day? You don't.
No, you don't.
And so, we have women of all different walks of life, sizes, shapes, colors. We have women that speak different languages. And I mean, I pride myself on that because of where we're from. And I look out and I think we are all united, and you cannot get this from an at-home workout.
No, you can't. You can't. I'm so looking forward to things getting back into the full swing. It's just completely different. And we are so starved of real connection that,
I don't
yeah.
think that humans, it might take a little bit, but my worry at first was that like they would get numb to it and be like, oh, this is my new normal.
Mm,
And I'm not worried about that anymore, because we're going to have a mental health crisis if people do not start spending time with each other. Um,
completely.
and I'm so like honored to be able to provide that space for people to
Mm,
come to. But it did pose a little bit of an issue, knowing that most of our income is coming from online classes.
yeah.
So then you go, okay, what's the next step? Where's the transition there? We transitioned when COVID started quickly. And now, you have to think about how to transition when we do start to lose some of those online memberships. Um,
Mm,
so we're looking at, maybe traveling to do big live events, places where people can, some central type location for people from a few states can come and join us. And we would call it, I always say it's like a fitness concert. So,
yeah. I'd love to talk about that. Like, what is your overarching dream for your work and for the studio?
I never really knew what it was, because I've always just taken it one step at a time. But
Mhm.
I think that, when there's necessity, it pushes you. And that's what we've had this year. So
Mhm.
I've wanted to live stream for 2 years. I've put it on my goals. I wanted to grow our online subscription and grow our YouTube channel. Like, these are all things that I wanted to be able to do and offer,
Mhm.
because I wanted to be able to reach more people. But, you push those things to the back burner because there's other more important things that take your time, until it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
that cannot wait another hour.
Yep.
And so now it's pushed us into this place where we have, more availability to reach more people. And I mean, I really do think that long term, I mean, if you could do anything and you wouldn't fail, it would be to grow the studio brand to where we would have instructors in different parts of the United States sending the same message and that same feel, that we have in Springfield, because it's so powerful. And, we could travel and do certifications and have more people sending the same message. And, who knows, I would love for it to be the new way of fitness, that you move to feel better and be healthy, not to look better.
I can see it. Like I honestly can. And I truly think that it's coming. Cause I've noticed that it seems like the age where women are like, screw this. I
Yeah.
can't do this anymore. It seems to be getting lower, like younger and younger for the breaking point where we're like, no thanks, I can't do this, like monetizing off my insecurities, just hating myself into a version of myself that I think I'll like better, but I don't. Like I feel like it's coming.
You know, you can't escape yourself. So, if you have that feeling, that gut feeling of this doesn't feel right, it's going to eventually catch up to you,
Right.
So the decisions that we make, we have to ask, I'm the one that has to lay my head down, at the end of the day. And if I can't say that I know that I did what I did today with integrity and my purpose, it's really hard. I'm hard on myself with that, because other people are
Mhm.
like, Jamie, you have to make money. You have to make money. And I keep telling myself, I know, I'm just trying to be patient. I'm just trying to be patient. It'll all work out. It'll all work out. And, you get to a point where you're like, okay, what do I do next? Like, because they're
Yeah.
right. But you want to stay, with your integrity. And that's why I have to think, okay, if that's not going to make the money, then how could I make the money? And I
Mhm.
posted on my Instagram, to see, have any of you ever thought that you would want to teach studio branded classes if I held a certification? And I did a poll, and I mean, I had 157 women say yes. That's a lot. I mean, to me, that was like, wow, that's incredible. And then I think 157 women all over the United States saying, or even in other countries saying, you know, F the way that fitness is trying to make us feel.
Right.
And a lot of companies and fitness influencers and YouTubers and all of those things, they are trying to portray that. And so I respect that there is an effort with some of them to do that. What's hard for me is, like, they say those things or they post a quote about loving yourself, and then, every other picture on their Instagram is a shot of their abs, which, that is awesome. If they love themselves, like, and they really, really do, that's awesome. But to me, that is still saying, this is what you have to look like if you want to learn how to love yourself, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to put
Yeah.
anyone else's message down. It just, to me, as someone who had suffered greatly with eating disorders and body insecurities, to the point of just feeling like I didn't want to live anymore, that did not help me.
Completely. Completely. And this is like an Instagram trend where like it seems like vulnerability is kind of being used as a tool in certain
Mm,
areas instead of
yes.
people living it. And I am personally not finding that it's helpful to move it forward, but I feel like we aren't there yet, if that makes sense.
It's a trend, and for me, it's a lifestyle. For other people, it could be like a trend to get more followers or more views, you know.
Right.
It's to me, honestly, it's the easy way. I mean, if you have a six pack of abs, maybe I'm just saying that because I don't and I'm jealous. Who knows, you know? I'm willing to admit that could be part of it, and you know, my
Yeah.
subconscious, but I think it's the easy way to get people, you know, to follow you.
Yeah.
To say, if you want to look like me,
Mm.
do what I do and pay me to tell you, you know, what to eat, when to eat it, and you'll look like me. And you will. If you do exactly what they say, you absolutely will. But that's just not life to me.
Yeah, but and I also think that sometimes you might not look exactly like them either, because we all have like our different, our bodies are different. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You'll get closer to the way that they look. Like, you know, like um, uh, coaches that coach people that do like body competitions or whatever. You
Yeah.
see all those women up there, they doing a similar thing. They all have like a
Oh,
similar
completely.
body type, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it works if that is what you're after. And if that is what you're after, that is awesome. To each their own. It's just for me in the fitness industry, I see people come in to the studio. I see comments, I get messages every day that's like, I've never, ever in my entire life stuck with something that is fitness oriented, but this I am addicted to because it makes me feel so happy. And that's why
Yeah.
we call ourselves the addicts.
Ah, that is so beautiful.
And sometimes I get some I guess flack for that term, the addicts, you know, that is kind of a negative term, but
Mm,
that's because society's made it negative. You can be
mm,
addicted to positivity, you can be addicted to happiness, you can be
mm.
addicted to the feeling of freedom and addicted to integrity and be, you know,
Yeah.
it's weird how people can say being obsessed with something is like a bragging right. Oh,
Mm.
I'm obsessed with this show. It's so good. But if you say I'm addicted to something, there's a negative connotation with it. They're the
Yeah.
same thing.
Interesting. Interesting. That's a good point of view.
But that's why I say we are the addicts because we are addicted to the idea of a better life for
Yes. That is so beautiful. Jamie, how can we find you and how can we find the studio?
Well, we have two websites. One base website. It's the studio by jamiekinkeade.com. And from there, it will take you to our on-demand library of classes if you click on-demand library tab at the top. And we have links to all of those websites in our YouTube descriptions. All of our videos have descriptions with those links. And on YouTube, it's just the studio by Jamie Kinkeade. The spelling of it is really tricky, but it's super cool because we've gotten popular enough that I can see the YouTube search terms that had helped people find our channel. And my last name is spelled wrong every time. So it's still getting them to our channel. And, you know, if anyone hears this and is in the Springfield area, we've been getting visitors recently, which is so cool.
Wow.
We have a visitor from New York right now. We had one from Washington. We had some girls travel from Oklahoma for our body love experience. And I don't know, it's just really neat. We're in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
And so if anyone travels this way, I always say, come in and see us and introduce yourself.
I mean, personally, I'm very motivated to do that. Like, that sounds so fun. And like,
I've
you've
had
kind of,
so many people say, once COVID's over, I'm going to do a road trip to Springfield. Also, we are going to do retreats. We have done retreats in the past, but now it's going to be so different because we're going to have people from all over instead of just our studio retreat. And I am so excited about that. You just spend 5 days together, just talking and bonding and just, you know, personal growth and movement and fun.
oh, that is so exciting. I did not know you guys did retreats.
Yes, we've never had to advertise them publicly before because they've all sold out like with the studio girls. So
Wow.
yeah, last year we went to Mexico, and this year for 2021 we are looking at a different location, further, like maybe in the fall. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm really excited about that. But if anyone really wants to keep up with the information as it comes out, our Instagram page, The Studio by Jamie Kinkeade, is a good one. And also my own personal Instagram
Yeah.
is just Jamie Kinkeade, because a lot of that stuff I will post on my own personal Instagram before I post it on the business page.
Mm.
Because I feel like the connections with my personal Instagram are a little more intimate. So if it sells
Mm.
out with those connections, then it never will come to the studio page, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Mm. Okay, so your website on YouTube, Instagram is where folks can find you. Like I can't recommend taking a class like enough.
Thank you so
You're
much.
yeah.
If people don't have Instagram, we do have Facebook. We have a Facebook group. It's got like 1,000 people in it. It's the girls that are at the studio and our online subscribers.
Mm.
It's a really neat group. I post on it every once in a while, but most of the time it's the addicts. And it's all positivity, uplifting. Sometimes there'll be a quote or a tip, like, hey, I found this, yoga mat or whatever. I mean, we sell
Yeah.
yoga mats, but um, as songs, the playlists are posted there. It's really a neat community. And you could
Ah,
be a part of it and never post or comment and still get to be,
in it.
engrossed in it too.
Mm, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for being here.
Thank you
Honestly,
for having me.
it's been so wonderful chatting with you.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.